It's John Tory, the former leader of the Progressive Party of Ontario and future Mayor of Toronto. How are you doing,
I'm doing
John?
fine. I'm the former leader of the Progressive Conservative Party and a former mayoralty candidate, just to make sure we absolutely correct your record.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. There is some speculation out there. I mean, Mike Harris today endorsed you for the future mayoralty of Toronto. What are your comments on that?
I think people are looking for an alternative because they're dissatisfied with the way the city's being run, whether it's the current strike or the finances or a host of other things. For me, I'm just sort of retiring from one job today, and so I've got to consider in the broader context of my career and my family what I'm going to do. So I'm not saying I wouldn't ever do it, but I'm not rushing to declare my candidacy. So we'll see. Got to decide it in a broader context.
So if anyone thinks that you should run for mayor, they should contact you, I suppose. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the garbage strike. Actually, it's top of mind in the city of Toronto. Where do you think the failures of this government have been in dealing with this issue?
I think the failure was to let it get to the point where we had the strike. I mean, here we have a person in charge of the city government and a council dominated by people who say that they're labor friendly. And I would have thought they would be sitting down months ago with the people they have a relationship with in the labor movement and settling some of these issues, because they're saying now that we know we can't afford some of these benefits going forward in tough times or even in better times. So I just think it was a complete failure of leadership. I think both sides, the public servants who work for the city and the public servants who run the city elected, have forgotten they're to serve the public and get this settled and stop a strike from happening.
So just behind us here in the hall, they're doing a roll call before the second ballot. How do you think the race has gone so far? Do you think there's been too many divisions? You spoke to this in your own tribute. I was wondering if you could maybe emphasize the message that you wanted to put out there.
Well, I mean, the race has been hard fought, and there have been bumps and bruises, as I described it. That happens in leadership contests. I think there were fewer of them in the one that I ran in 2004, but they happen. The key is how quickly can you move when it's over, to put those aside, to have the winner reach out to those who didn't win, and to have those people reach back and mean it. And I think that is crucial for this party. It's the most important thing that will happen. It's not policy, it's not conventions, it's about whether these folks, the four of them, can get together and say we're going to win together. It's our party collectively, and let's get on and do it.
Okay, now Randy Hillier and Tim Hudak have been running on this policy of getting rid of the human rights tribunals. If you were to give advice for the future leader of this party, where would you advise they move on this issue?
I think what they have to do is make sure they emphasize to people that this party remains as committed as it has ever been to protecting and strengthening people's human and personal rights. It is fundamental to our citizenship. And I think the perception has been created that as a result of a structural change that people are out talking about, that somehow we're, as a party, going to be less committed. And I think that would be wrong if it was true. I don't believe it is true, but I think what has to happen is that people have to recommit this party to what it has always proudly stood for, federally and provincially. Mr. Diefenbaker was among those at the forefront of human rights, Mr. Mulrooney, Mr. Davis, Mr. Robarts, and the new leader should be right there at the forefront fighting for people's rights.
Now, do you think the current system is flawed? I mean, it's run in Ontario by your former mayoralty competitor, Barbara Hall. I was wondering if you could speak to does it need to be changed? Does the system need an overhaul?
Well, I opposed the legislation setting up the current system that Mr. McGuinty introduced. I opposed it for a different reason, because the system now requires people with a complaint to go and get a lawyer. And the old system allowed people, if they had a complaint, to go in and have it dealt with by the Human Rights Commission, which I thought was a more open kind of system. So I'm on record, for example, as saying there are flaws in the current system. But I think the key is to fix the process if it needs to be fixed, fix the structure if it needs to be fixed, have a careful deliberation about it. Don't use it as a wedge or a kind of an explosive issue, but recommit yourself to the fact that you are going to protect and uphold and strengthen people's rights, because everybody cares about that in this country, as well they should.
And do you think that would be better settled by courts or by tribunals?
I mean, I think everywhere there are places. Look, the courts have their own problems. I mean, and if you go to court, you need lots of lawyers and you need oodles of time, years. That's another problem. And so maybe there is a place to have things resolved even by negotiation or mediation that isn't a court. I mean, the courts aren't perfect either. So I just say, look, let's figure out the best system we can, but not sound when we're trying to make it better like we're actually lessening our commitment to fighting for people's rights and making sure minority rights of all kinds are protected.
Okay, well, let's get back in there and see what the results of the second ballot are.
Never know for sure. That's the great thing about these conventions.
I'd like to thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, thanks.